Darkcast Network. Out of the shadows comes the best of indie podcasts.
During the early morning hours of July 15th, 2017, Barbara Rogers called the police, saying that her boyfriend had been shot. When police arrived, they found the victim died of a close gunshot wound to the forehead with a .45 caliber bullet. Rogers was then arrested and charged with her boyfriend's murder. Investigators soon found a bizarre backstory involving an alien reptilian cult that had consumed everyone that followed, including Rogers and the victim. My name is DJ, and this is the Mythical True Crime Podcast. Hello and welcome to tonight's show. To address the elephant in the room, I haven't published recently. In fact, I just got done moving locations, so now I have a new studio, a new workspace, so I should be able to be giving you regularly scheduled broadcasts every Monday. So stay tuned for those. Again, thank you for subscribing. If you haven't already, please subscribe and share. That really helps the channel grow, so I can give you more of this content. Now, with that out of the way, let's continue tonight's episode. A lot of the information is spread out through multiple news publication websites, so I apologize if I'm missing some information, but this is truly a bizarre case that you're going to want to hear. So from what I found out, in 2016, Barbara Rogers met a man named Stephen Minow. Stephen was 4 years younger than Barbara. The two members of a Ohio-based cult that was online by a person named Sherry Shriner. The two began communicating with each other and decided to meet. After Minow and Rogers rented a home together in Pennsylvania, they quickly grew serious. The cult leader, Shriner, who communicated with devotees via phone or online, didn't like the development, and she grew weary of Rogers' blossoming relationship with the inexperienced Minow. As months passed, Rogers' behavior became increasingly erratic. She wasn't taking medication for bipolar disorder. She struggled with impulse control and drank more and more. Minow's online mentor and mother figure later said that in an interview that she believed Rogers may have had a demon or a lizard manifest inside her, and warned that, quote, a human's no match for that kind of supernatural strength, end quote. She warned Minow to be careful. Again, in the early hours of July 15th, 2017, Minow and Rogers were drinking and shooting his .45 caliber handgun in their township home. After they returned from the outside, Robin's defense attorney said Minow forced his girlfriend to shoot him. Rogers later said, my boyfriend had a gun. He told me to hold it here and press the trigger. Oh my God, he's dead. Rogers, who claimed that she didn't know the firearm was loaded, explained that to dispatchers. Minow suffered a fatal gunshot wound to the head. Barbara then told officers that her boyfriend was upset at the time of his death because he had come to believe that the cult leader Shriner was a reptilian or an extraterrestrial alien posing as a human. As a result, Robbins then said he was forced to aim the gun point blank in the middle of his forehead and pulled the trigger. In March 2019, the Monroe County jury convicted Barbara Rogers of third-degree murder, and a judge sentenced her to 15 to 40 years behind bars. Evidence at the trial was presented that showed Rogers and Minow had a tumultuous relationship in the weeks leading up to the shooting. Indeed, the evidence did show that Rogers and Minnow were part of this religious group led by Sherry Schreiner. There was no evidence that this group was, in fact, more like a cult, and that Schreiner essentially had immense control over the majority of her devotees. Approximately 2 months before the shooting, Schreiner began attacking Rogers online, claiming that she was one of the enemies, specifically Reptilian, and insinuating that Minnow should no longer be in a relationship with Rogers. In addition to the ongoing confrontation, the Commonwealth presented evidence that Minnow was financially dependent on Rogers, and that Minnow suspected that Rogers was cheating. The founder of the Doomsday Cult later died several months after Minnow did. June 2019, the New Republic article wrote, "Foundational belief is that a race of sentient, devil-worshipping, shape-shifting reptiles from outer space has infiltrated human civilization. Through mind control and body snatching, these reptiles reportedly seek to install totalitarian world governments, thereby bringing about the rule of the Antichrist." Schreiner described herself as a messenger of the Most High God and claimed her beliefs were drawn largely from the Book of Revelation. Her own self-published books that you can find online include Aliens on the Internet, The Coming of UFO Invasion, Bible Codes Revealed, and Interview with the Devil, My Conversation with Lucifer. So now that we know a little bit about the cult leader, let's look at the actual murderer herself, Barbara Rogers. According to court records, Rogers' first-degree murder trial began in March 2017. She claimed in court the couple had gotten into a disagreement with the leader of the cult, who preaches a heady stew of online conspiracy theories, apocalyptic biblical interpretations, and warnings of a reptilian extraterrestrials living secretly as humans. Rogers claimed the distraught Minnow, again, placed the gun in her hands and pulled the trigger. She did not know that the gun was loaded. Prosecutors attempt to strip away the otherworldly elements from the tale to give her better personification in trial. However, in the end, the jury split the difference, finding Rogers guilty of the lesser charge of third-degree murder. The judge sentenced the 44-year-old 15 to 40 years in prison. However, the sentencing did not go well with the victim's family. The victim's aunt said, "To me, it's amazing that someone could put a gun to someone's head, blow their brains out essentially, and a jury finds them guilty of third-degree murder and not first." She got a break. She got a big break today. Now, other online sources suggest that Rogers was the one who had the reptilian entity inside of her, that Schreiner, the supposed cult leader, said that she did. However, I'm getting conflicting evidence from these different articles. Sherry Schreiner, again, was their cult leader who was self-proclaimed servant, prophet, ambassador, daughter, and messenger of the Most High God. Schreiner believes in a new world order that's threatening humanity, an evil conspiracy hatched by aliens and other evil beings. In fact, in an interview in 2017 before she died, she said, "I don't run a cult. You can turn on my video or turn it off. You can turn on my podcast or turn it off. I don't have a list or a membership rule of any kind." Again, after the sentencing is when we learn more details on the night in question. On the night of his death, Rogers and Minnow had been drinking, but they weren't at a house. They were reportedly drinking at a bar until 2 a.m. Rogers said that they both had a few drinks but were not intoxicated. Then back at home, Minnow suggested that they'd head out into the dark woods and fire his gun. Later, back in the bedroom, still distraught after falling out with his cult leader, Shriner, and her followers, he pressed the gun to his head, grabbed Roger's hands, and forced her to pull the trigger. Now, that's everything that she claimed and told investigators. However, the police, using forensics, claims that the shooting was no accident. During the trial, the judge asked if Rogers had wished to accept a plea deal for third-degree murder. However, she declined. Following testimony from different forensic investigators, the jury convicted Rogers again of the third-degree charge. Now, in Pennsylvania, unlike a first-degree murder charge, a third-degree conviction doesn't require the intent to kill, although the defendant does have to have a knowledge that their conduct was life-threatening. Third-degree conviction in Pennsylvania carries a lesser prison sentence, of course, with a maximum of 40 years. Prosecutors requested the maximum. The defense, citing her lack of previous criminal history and the fact that she is a mother of 3, they asked for leniency. The sentencing that was carried out, Rogers reiterated her claims that Menno was truly responsible for his own death. She quoted saying to reporters, quote, "I was not in control of the situation that happened. I was not dominating party in that situation." End quote. After the judge sent Rogers away for a minimum of 15 years, prosecutors expressed frustration, much like the victims' families. The Monroe County Assistant District Attorney said to reporters, "We would have liked to see her get more, but we understand why the judge did what they did." Menno's mother then spoke. "What happened to my son is permanent," she said. "Her sentence should be permanent. This is totally unfair." So what we have here is a 32-year-old man killed in the prime of his life, all because of some doomsday cult. Barbara Rogers is currently serving her 15 years in a Pennsylvania state prison. However, the article does list that she does plan to appeal. Now, I apologize for giving redundant information. However, just researching this particular case, it seemed to go all over the place. Must be because of the Alien Reptilian Cult leader, Sherry Shriner. That's who I'm blaming. So much so, in fact, that I plan on doing a part 2 to this episode, dedicated to the Reptilian Cult leader. So stay tuned for that. This is going to be a 2-parter. So as such, that concludes tonight's episode involving Barbara Rogers and her alien reptile cult. I thank you very much for listening. This has been the Mythical True Crime Podcast. My name is DJ, and have a good night.
And that concludes another captivating episode, delving into the world of mythical true crime. I appreciate you joining me tonight as we listen to the facts from these true crime tales. Stay tuned for our next episode, where we'll uncover even more mysteries. Until then, thank you for listening to tonight's episode. Good night.